And we are live. Today, I'm going to go ahead and use the primary microphone. We're going to get some of that podcast audio stuff going. And I want to throw back to, and I've got to look at my notes here, but a throwback to episode 276. Know your approach. And I'm just coming off a session where I was with a number of growth leaders in the startup AZ community. And we talked a bit about our understanding customers, so customer journey. And we talked a little bit about sales process from a forecasting perspective, which would fall into the know your business category. And because I was not as tight as I needed to be with the timing, we didn't get into the know your approach stuff. So I'm going to record this a little bit for them and a lot for everybody else out there. So know your approach. What does this mean? Well, for those of you who've been following along long enough, you know that I have a fondness for board games. One of the things I like about board games is we've all played them at one time or another. We played some kind of board game. Some of them have led to fights inside each of our families. Uh, I have family members who will not play the game that I'm about ready to mention with me again. And the game is Monopoly. And one of the cool things about Monopoly is there are four corners on the board, and you just keep going around and around the board up until the point that somebody wins. You don't know how many times it's going to take to get around the board, but everything is, you're always going through each of those steps, and you shouldn't really skip steps other than sometimes you get go to jail and do not pass go. So you don't get credit for passing go. You don't get that extra money. What does Monopoly have to do with knowing your approach? Well, knowing your approach is really all about how do we execute? How do we do the work that we do as individual contributors inside the organization? And this works both for internal customers as well as external customers. And I guess the way I should say that is it works for external customers as well as internal customers. So know your approach. How do we go about doing the work that we're doing? Well, there's 5 steps in here because the first one you have to identify, but then it will turn into 4 repeated ones. Number 1, let's identify who it is that we want to work with. Let's identify the person we want to engage with, the person we want to have that conversation with. So number 1, as someone who's out there helping people solve problems, problem solver, someone focused on solutions, let's first identify the person we want to engage with. Second step, let's engage with them. Actually engage with them. It could be an email. It could be a direct message. It could be going up and saying hello to them at a conference because you know they're speaking. So we identify them and we engage with them. Step 2, engage. Step 3, we have to clarify objectives. Know what our objectives are. Be really clear. And if we're following our call plan, we should anticipate what their objectives are as well. So third piece, know what our objectives are. The fourth piece is establish next steps. We can design for these next steps. What are the next steps that we want to take? Is one of the next steps that we schedule some time for a capability call? That might be a next step after a discovery call. We might want to set up some time for a capability call. We might want to set up some time for a demo. We might actually want to set up some time for solution design discussions, something to that effect. But we identify first, we engage, we establish objectives, establish next steps, and then we call people to action. And that's the looping piece. So that is the 5th step in this know your approach process. And when you call people to action, you re-engage with them. I'm going to go ahead and throw this up on the whiteboard just quickly. I'm using this front mic, so I'm not going to talk as much while I'm back here, but it looks something like this. Identify, engage, establish objectives, clarify next steps, call to action, and re-engage. Just keep following that process over and over again until you get to the thing that you're looking to get to, or you determine that there's not a thing to get there, to get out there. So this is a repeatable wash, rinse, repeat type process. Identify, engage, establish objectives, clarify next steps, call to action, re-engage. It's not a closed loop. If we were drawing this, we probably would take the call to action up here and make it an engage up at the top, establish objectives, clarify next steps, engage, objectives, next steps. And your loop would start to look like this. It's just this kind of spiral that moves toward things and makes progress. Um, why is this important? Well, it really starts to simplify the process or the approach that we take when we're engaging with others. This works both with external customers and internal customers. So let's say that we're crossing the aisle in a collaborative discussion with other members of our team. We identify who we need to work with, we engage with them, we have a set of objectives, we clarify our next steps, call to action, re-engage, and continue to work through that process until we get to the solution that we're working for. This is the approach at an individual level. When you have a standard set of practices or standard framework that you work through, you'll improve the likelihood of success. You'll improve predictability. This is very different from a sales process, that sales process that we use for forecasting. This is very different from the buyer journey, the game of life stuff that your customers go through. Remember, buyer journey looks a bit more like the game of life. And that sales process stuff that we use for forecasting looks a bit more like chutes and ladders. When we apply these board games to the way that we think about the work that we do, we can start to demystify or simplify our approach to generating revenue, getting things done inside our organization. Again, game of life, customer journey, chutes and ladders, forecasting, and my favorite, Monopoly, how we actually go out there and execute on the work. This is Throwback Thursday to episode, what was it, 270, 276. Know your approach. You can listen to the full episode. I'll include links. I'll include a link here at the end of the video. If you have questions, send them my way. I'd love to answer some specific questions from folks who are really getting into these videos and enjoying these videos. If you know somebody who'd benefit from this video, please share it with them. And thank you, and have an absolutely awesome